Aloha, my name is Ku'ule Breen, and for my persuasive speech for Online Speech 151, my topic is whether or not juveniles should be tried as adults in the court system. There are many different views as to whether or not teenagers of violent crimes should be tried and sentenced as adults. But one fact remains: punishment should be based on the severity of the crime, not the perpetrator's age. Most teenagers understand their actions just as adults do, so why should their age be the determination? Youth who commit violent crimes with clear intent are acting in a manner that is both adult and mature, and therefore their punishments should reflect this. Violent and heinous crimes call for a drastic punishment, and that should not be based on the age of the criminal. Our laws and constitutions were made up to keep it order in our society for both young and old. Don't you agree? Laws reflect the society's morals and were put into effect in order to maintain justice and integrity among all citizens. No specific group should be an exception to this rule, as they were made for all people. If a juvenile is old enough to commit a serious crime, then he or she is old enough to face the serious consequences. This is not true in all cases. For example, the mentally impaired, but for most part, kids know right from wrong and should be penalized according to the law. In my own experience, there was a girl in my class who would constantly keep picking fights with people, on top of the fact that she instigated them. This she had no problem with, and all she got as punishment was 3 days suspension. And obviously it didn't stop because she kept repeating and hitting and fighting people. If you do that in the real world when you're 18, you can go to court, you get years in jail, fined, etc. So perhaps if the youth are sent to court and charged as an 18-year-old adult, it will stop the violence and repeat offenses, which will obviously equal to a bettered adult because we're stopping them at their youth. Juveniles who commit and understand their actions should be tried and condemned like adults. Most states have passed laws to make it possible for teenagers to be tried as an adult, and because of this, crime rates have dropped. According to the Justice Department, violent crimes among teens has fallen from 36% to 36% between 1994 and 1999. I believe that this is partially due to the fact that states are pressing charges on juveniles like they're adults. When kids know that they will be tried as adults, they won't commit the crime, and they'll take things more seriously because there will be serious consequences. Defense attorneys and advocates for the juvenile justice system often use the excuse that the brain of a teenager is not completely developed enough to comprehend their actions. The legal director of the Conservative Criminal Justice Legal Foundation is quoted saying that the notion and teenagers are not capable of understanding what is going on, I find not credible in the case of mentally normal teenagers. Other researchers claim that during adolescent phase, there's a point where teenagers are losing brain tissue, and this can inhibit in reckless actions. I still don't think that is a valid a valid excuse. Laws were put into place to protect and serve the people, and in passing laws to try teenagers as adults, there has been a substantial decrease in crime amongst teenagers. Many conditions play a part in the trial and sentencing a teenager. The severity of the crime is by far the greatest consideration. If a teenager commits a violent and heinous crime such as murder, it is likely that they will be tried as an adult. Government statistics show that over 200,000 juveniles each year are tried as adults. Other considerations that weigh heavily on the outcome are if the perpetrator has an arrest history and also the age. If a teenager is found guilty of a violent crime in a state that imposes the death penalty, it is possible that, should his or her crime warrant it, they will be sentenced to die. More and more juveniles are being tried as adults for crimes that warrant adult penalties with all aspects considered. While others may have different views on the topic of teenagers tried as adults, as many do, I believe that teenagers should be tried and sentenced as adults when their crimes are violent and malicious. Age should not be a determining factor when a criminal commits a capital offense and do it so with intent. Only when a child is so young, around the age of 8, should his or her understanding of the crime be questioned and considered. As the nation cracks down on juvenile offenses, it has enabled many states to try teenagers as adults. I must, however, admit that my opinion on this issue cannot be applied to every case where there are circumstances to be considered. Sometimes teenagers do not deserve to be punished as adults, but most times they should adhere to the same laws that all citizens are expected to follow. Thank you.